single most exasperating aspect of putting together this program every morning, specifically these Friday episodes that aim at things I want to see in the game that weekend, is that I find myself saying the same things Friday after Friday after Friday. Good Friday morning to you. I'm Dejan Kovacevic of DK Pittsburgh Sports. This is Daily Shot of Steelers. It comes your way bright and early every weekday. If you're into hockey and or baseball, I also offer daily shots of the other two teams in town that I cover, the Penguins and the Pirates. Hope you'll give those a listen as well. Tomorrow night, it's Steelers versus Ravens. That's an 8 p.m. kickoff at M&T Bank Stadium in Baltimore, and it'll obviously be the third meeting between those teams, not just of the season, but, in a span of a handful of weeks. So no, there really is not new material to be had here. You could look at individual issues that have arisen since then, and even that's not much. Yesterday, John Harbaugh announced at the Ravens practice facility in Owings Mills, Maryland, that Zay Flowers will be out. He will miss the game because of his knee injury. And yeah, it's just Steelers versus Ravens. But even that isn't why these episodes have become a struggle. It's that I say the same things that I'd like to see because it at least seems to me, just one person, that these are things that the Steelers could and should solve. And then the game happens, and then they didn't do anything of the kind. And then, poof, just like that, 10-3 turns into 10-7. AFC North champs turns into entering the postseason on life support. But I remain undeterred. And as such, here are 5 things I'd like to see tomorrow night. I'd like to see it put to Russell Wilson that he has to get rid of the football in a hurry. I'd like to see it put to Wilson that he's only to call plays in which things occur very, very quickly. I'd like to see it put to Wilson, how do I say this? In the gentlest, most respectable form that his future with the franchise might depend on it. That's not to suggest he wouldn't get employed elsewhere, and it's not to suggest that, he's actually going to be sleeping under a bridge somewhere if the Steelers don't bring him back. But it is to suggest that they can make known to him that they need him to be able to play a certain way, to be able to trust him with, $100 million over the next 3 years, and that him trying to constantly escape jams isn't it. I would like to see Arthur Smith and everyone involved in the offense look at a piece of paper that has all of the Steelers' offensive players on it and then rank them 1 through 20. I am not being serious here. But the purpose of such an exercise would still apply, at least for Smith, in that he can see, I don't really need to spread the ball as much as I've been trying to do. And the same, again, goes for Russ. I don't need to have 10 different receivers catching the ball. I don't need to have a target or 2 targets next to Michael Pruitt's name. I don't need, on 3rd and goal, to design a play in which Darnell Washington is my primary target. What I need is to identify, even if it's just in my own head, who the Steelers' best players are. And from there, I commit to myself and to the team to go down swinging with those guys. I don't want to lose because Van Jefferson got stopped short of the sticks. I would like to see, since I was just about to reference George Pickens in that context, some aggressiveness. Let's see the one thing that's actually gone right for this offense over this past month, at least for the most part. Put it up. Put it up. You can call them moon balls, prayer balls, heaves, bombs. Put them up. Because in addition to George, you have Mike Williams. I I'm pretty sure you have Mike Williams. I don't know. All he does is he gets one target, does something spectacular, and then gets basically yanked off the field. But you got a couple guys capable of catching those. You've got, in a different sense, another wide receiver in Calvin Austin who can get those, but his would be of a different type. His would be, throw it past them because he's run past them. Go for it. The Ravens secondary, it's still the same guys that were there earlier in the season and getting toasted week after week. That's not me exaggerating. They were the pits of the universe for the first few weeks. So I'll say it again. You go down swinging. Or better yet, you don't go down. I would like to see this defense make a stand. Have a complete game. First drive onward. If it wasn't for the first drive against the Bengals, we all would have been praising them, because that would be Cincinnati's only touchdown. But my goodness, it was so easy and so excruciating to watch. It was kind of like, eating something that was spoiled at the beginning of your meal, and then everything else is excellent. Doesn't matter. The taste is there. It's stuck. This is, and I mean this, a life type of game for people like Cam Hayward, like TJ Watt.
I say all the time that there's a big difference between guys that come back that are Super Bowl champions and guys that aren't. And that's not a slight at the guys that aren't. I'm one of those guys right now. But there's definitely an aura and a sense to a guy that has won a Super Bowl. And there's a togetherness, a close-knit group of guys that when they come back for those alumni weekends, they hang out and they bond and they talk about their successes on and off the field and that Super Bowl run. And we want that. Every guy in here wants that. Don't confuse any of this lack of success for lack of effort. Everybody's trying. We're turning over every stone that we possibly can to be great. We want to be great. We just need to do it together. And that's not saying that we haven't, but we just need to do everything collectively and play complementary football when the time matters most. And there's definitely a sense of urgency because it's the playoffs in the National Football League. This is what everybody plays the game for.
Great. That's beautiful. Now go make it happen. Make it happen. I would like to see these players, Watt, Hayward, handful of others on that side of the ball. I would like to cover their reactions in that stadium after a win. In fact, I would like to see that so much that I'm going to stop this right here and not even do a fifth one. When we come back, J1Q. Luxembourg, Garbett, Kelly & George is a personal injury law firm in Western Pennsylvania that represents injured people in automobile accidents, workers' compensation cases, and medical malpractice claims. The attorneys at Luxembourg, Garbett, Kelly & George pride themselves in doing what they say they're going to do. It's important to them that when they make you a promise, they keep that promise. And this law firm has been keeping promises for over 80 years. Luxembourg, Garbett, Kelly & George has been AV rated. That's the highest rating a law firm can receive for legal ability and ethics. And the lawyers at the firm have been designated super lawyers, that's a real thing, for over 15 years. Rare combination there. Luxembourg, Garbett, Kelly & George has offices in Cranberry, Newcastle, Beaver Falls, Butler, and Elwood City. Learn more about them at lgkg.com or by calling 888-842-5454. Again, that's 888-842-5454. Today's J1Q comes from Donovan in Nashville. It says, "Howdy, DK. Your daily shot on Thursday about Art Rooney had me thinking, and I wanted to get your thoughts because I feel as if you're the best person to ask who'd provide an honest answer. All across the internet and social media are conversations regarding the Steelers coaching staff. A topic that's popular and one that I'm constantly hearing and reading now is suggesting that the reason this team doesn't go after a Ben Johnson or a Brian Flores type of coordinator is because the Rooneys don't want to pay them such large sums of money. Basically, they're accusing Art of being cheap. Personally, I think that's wildly ridiculous and don't believe it, nor have I really seen any actual evidence to support such a claim. Can you dispel these rumors and provide some clarity. Well, it's not my job to start off here, Donovan, to dispel anything. I have my own staff here at DK Pittsburgh Sports. We have our own reporting that we do, and the only reporting that we're ever responsible for, and I tell them this as well, is our own. You don't worry about what everybody else is saying or speculating or whatever. Here's what I'll tell you that I know to be true. Arthur Smith is compensated at the same level that NFL offensive coordinators are compensated. I know that for a fact. I don't know about Terrell Austin's, so I'm not in a great spot to say anything there, and I won't. But I've, generally speaking, not heard that the coordinators in Pittsburgh are getting, some ridiculously low sum of money. And that goes back for a while now. If anyone thinks that Dick LeBeau was being underpaid, they're out of their minds. Now, if you're asking in a general sense, and I think you did this at the beginning of your question there, is Rooney cheap? There are signs that point to that. It's just little stuff. And I don't know if cheap would be the right word as much as it is that they're not ritzy, they're not fancy. They're the Steelers. That's how I think of it. I think of them, and maybe this is unfair, but so be it. When I think of that white tent, the Copes Cabana that Myron had out on the lawn between the stadium and the Ohio River, ugliest, cheesiest contraption you've ever seen in your life, something you wouldn't permit on a picnic grounds in the slummiest part of Westmoreland County. But the Steelers were completely comfortable with it. Similarly, they get the knocks that you've seen, heard, and read about whether it's the locker room or the family thing. They just don't even think about stuff like that. Look at the stadium itself. Look at the design. Look at the awful white cocktail umbrellas that are on top of those two rotundas. That's the Steelers. That's the Rooneys. They just don't think about diamonds and pearls. It's not them. When you're talking about coaches, don't forget that one of your coaches is Mike Tomlin, and that he's making more than $13 million a year. Now, I haven't seen any complete list of what all 32 head coaches were paid in the 2024 season. I'm guessing Tomlin is way, 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 way up there. And that's a choice. If cheapness was the priority of the Rooneys, this isn't a salary cap thing. They don't have to spend that much money on coaching, regardless if it's the head guy, the coordinators, or whatever. They don't have to do it. That's a choice. And it's one that they continue to make. Now, I have something else to say, and it's not really just to you, Donovan. It's to everybody, because this is all I was getting all week. That's the reason these questions were like this. It's not because I'm picking them to try to stir stuff up. This is all I'm getting. I get nothing about this game. Everything is Tomlin this, Rooney that, Tomlin this, Rooney that. Well, there is a game tomorrow, and it is a big one. And whether or not you have faith that the Steelers can beat the Ravens, even though they already did that once just a handful of weeks ago, do yourself a favor. It's a fun little exercise. Try to project how you'd feel after a win tomorrow night. And, it's going to take a good performance to get the win. I don't think you're going to see the Steelers play crappy and win, or, luck out and win. I don't think that's how this is going to go. But ask yourself how you'd feel if you saw the Steelers beat the Ravens in their stadium for their first playoff win in a long time, and then you, as a fan, could begin looking ahead to the next round of playoffs for the first time in forever and start sizing up that matchup. And then tell me if you're going to be thinking about any of this kind of stuff. I appreciate you, Donovan. I appreciate everybody who listens to Daily Shot of Steelers. I'm heading out to Baltimore first thing tomorrow morning, actually, since it's a night game. And we will have a special edition of Daily Shot that comes out Sunday morning. I'm going to guess there'll be plenty to talk about. Thanks for listening.